Today, friends, at the request of Moishe Shizgal, Dr. Shizgal, today's the yard site of Rabbi Isaac Shvei. How many years ago? How many years ago?
Memches.
1988, yeah, right. Moishe mentioned to me, texted to me that he was a beloved mashpia of yours. And I'll tell you of mine as well. When I first came to Montreal, he was out. I was actually very close. His wife with my mother's family back in Russia, and he guided me. He guided me in my early years in Shamedi, and any question I had, he was my go-to person on every level. A much beloved figure, a very great leader. Most often in the background, very quiet man, but achieved much in the furtherance of Yiddishkeit and Lubavitch in Montreal. He's the one responsible for Rabbi Hirschbaum going to the Rebbe, becoming a Chassid in essence, which was great self-sacrifice for him, Rabbi Hirschbaum, knowing that he would lose his celebrated status in certain parts of the Torah world by being an admirer and a Chassid of the Rebbe. At any rate, this was Rabbi Shvei. So we want to dedicate today's story.
And not being invited, and wasn't invited, and not being invited to the Siyam Shas as well.
Yeah, so I want to tell the story, dedicate the story that we were talking about yesterday to Harav Shvei Olav Shalom, and also give over a vote from Rav Shvei. There are two beautiful volumes of his writings that they found afterwards. Kisvei Rabbi Isaac, the writings, the manuscripts of the writings. I'll show you just a vote. So, yeah, continuing our story of yesterday. So I told you as follows. So this is Pesach, 1967 at the Suda. So the Rashab, this is the Rebbe's brother-in-law, Rebbe Shmayo Gorari. So he asked the Rebbe the following. He said, could the Rebbe please explain this? The Frierdiker Rebbe would go into his father's cabinet, his father's office, after the Istalkus of the Rebbe Rashab, after undergoing all the achonas, like going into Yechidus. He would go dressed in he put on his Shabbos clothing, means the silk kapot and so on, the shtaimel. He would stand at the table, in front of the table, opposite the chair where his father sat, in the same way that he went into Yechidus. So he's asking the Rebbe, what's the Indian in here? And why was he standing by the table? Why does he have to go into the room? So the Rebbe answered, number one, in addition to going into the room, it reminds you of the Rebbe Rashab as he was here. And that's very powerful, very evocative to go to the same place and close one's eyes and imagine the Rebbe sitting here. That's powerful. Number one. Number two, there's a great virtue by standing next to the table or any object of a tzaddik, because any object which a tzaddik uses, like the vessels of the Mishkan, are eternally holy. So this table, in this chair that he sat, in this table that he sat, and learn Torah and did his avodah day and night. So this has an effect on the physical table. Then the Rebbe made reference to a story of the Baal Shem Tov. And the story of the Baal Shem Tov is actually recorded at great length in this Sefer, the Likutei Sipurim, by Harav Perlov of Australia, of Russia, of Italy, and of Australia. I referred to him, I told a story or two from this Sefer, which he wrote to the Rebbe's behest. As I told you, the Rebbe requested the elder Chassidim write the stories that they heard, were witness to. So the Rebbe is referring to this story, which he tells you at length. And the essence of the story is this: that once the Baal Shem Tov was resting, and the fellow, I don't know if he mentions his name, that was cleaning his tidying up the room, cleaning his room. So Baal Shem Tov's pantofel, which means, pantofel means the shoes you wear in the house, like slippers, well, by the bed. And he didn't know whether to move them or not. They were sweeping. He decided not to move them and swept around them. When Baal Shem Tov awoke, he asked him, did he move his pantofel? And the fellow said, no, he didn't. And the Baal Shem Tov thanked him and wished him and blessed him with Arichas Yomim. He goes on to tell, with long life, he goes on to tell the story of Rav Pilov, that he lived extraordinary, well beyond 100 years. And the story goes that many years later, someone happened to be in the same town with this. He sees the following scene. He sees an older person kind of sleeping it was winter, by the oven, and the younger person is berating him, get up and do what you have to do. And he was aghast that the son, obviously looked alike, is berating the father. And he couldn't contain himself and says, Kipudav. And the younger fellow laughed and said, that's my son. I am the father. This was a result of what? Of the bracha of the Baal Shem Tov. As the Rebbe goes on to explain, and he explains in the story there that everything that was placed is everything was placed is exactly paralleling Lamaila, paralleling the Mishkan, and everything has its place. Rabbi Pilov notes at the end of the story that the miracle of the story is not so much that the bracha of the Baal Shem Tov for long life, is that this fellow, when he cleaned, had the good sense not to, he's going to pick up the shoes so he can put them exactly back where they were, but not to touch and move the pantofel of the Baal Shem Tov. He says that's the greatness of the story. The Rebbe continues. Moreover, this continues from our story of yesterday, and the Rebbe quotes from the Gemara. Let me quote from the Gemara to you about the Rebbe, the Yehuda Nossi, when he was nostalgic. I'll read in translation. Rebbe said, before he passed away, friend, this is extraordinary. And fascinatingly, even the art scroll, even the commentary, they bring, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let me tell you what the Gemara says. So they have no choice. It's right here in the Gilyon Hashas. So the Gemara says like this. Rebbe said, let a lamp burn for me in its usual, this is before his passing. The Gemara records all the instructions that he said before he was nostalgic. He said, let a lamp burn for me in its place. Let the table be set for me in its place. Let the couch be arranged for me in its place. The Gemara says, why? He's passing, leaving this world. Why is he requesting this? Every Friday evening, after his death, he would come to his house. And therefore, he wanted that everything should be arranged according to his will. Moreover, and they bring here in the footnote, even the art scroll from the Gilyon Hashas, from the Sefer Chassidim. Sefer Chassidim is a sefer written by Rabbi Yehuda Chassid, the famed Rabbi Yehuda Chassid, who lived in the 1200s, 1300s in Germany, wrote this famous sefer called Sefer Chassidim. And there he brings, the Rebbe says, that Rebbe used to come Friday night and make Kiddush for everyone and discharge their obligation with his Kiddush. The commentaries are, but a person, first of all, how can he's not obligated himself to make Kiddush because someone who passes away is exempt from mitzvahs, which is why we cover our tzitzis, for example, when we go to the Beis HaChaim. How can he discharge others their obligation if he is not obligated? We must therefore say that he was. And that notwithstanding his passing, he still remained bound up in such an intimate way with the world. And they bring this in the commentary. You can look this up. It's Gemara Ksubas Daf Kav Gimel Amud Aleph. The Gemara continues. So this is what happened every Friday night until a certain Friday evening. So a neighbor came at the door, and the help in the house said to her, shh, Rebbe's sitting with us now. When Rebbe heard that his visits were made public, he no longer came to visit. Why, said the Gemara? So it's not to cause disparagement of the other tzaddikim who don't come Friday night to make Kiddush. But that's the story. So the Rebbe is telling the story here, how much the Rashag is asking the significance of the table being this place and being in that physical room, and the Frierdiker Rebbe standing there. The Rabbi all did this. The Rebbe Rashab with the Rebbe Marash. At least we know that story too. The significance is not only the levels he explained, the memory, not only the objects are holy, but there is this physical for those who can see. The Rebbe concluded another Fabrenyan in the early years. Tafshin and Aleph, the Rebbe said, this was a few weeks after the Istalkus of the Frierdiker Rebbe. The Rebbe said that the Frierdiker Rebbe installed a telephone in his office, and there was a telephone downstairs at 770 because he wanted to hear what was going on, the Fabrengins, whatever. The Rebbe says now it's also, he sits in his office and hears, but of course even greater than the limit of the telephone. So the Rebbe asked, so how can we even Fabreng, knowing this? He said, because that's what he wants. This is the whole intent, is that we should work and do, like permission is granted during the week to do what you have to do. It's not just permission. That's the whole point, is to bring and reveal godliness even into the weekday. Okay, I think we get the general idea, and this is
just to add, there was once a story upstairs, and there was a lot of pushing, and Rebbe was sitting on his place on the left side. It was once by the upstairs. There was a lot of pushing. Rebbe used to sit on the left side and the Rashag on the right side. And by mistake, but a lot of pushing, they pushed the Rebbe's chair, and the Frierdiker Rebbe's chair, and the Rebbe jumped.
Yeah, but the Rebbe sat at the table after the Frierdiker Rebbe's Istalkus, like the Frierdiker Rebbe was there. It didn't change. Virtual silence unless he was asked, and a complete awe. Yeah. So a vote from the Isaac. The Gemara says like this. This is the very end of Shas. It's very appropriate. Is your side. So Amr Rabbi Shimon ben Chalafta. Shimon ben Chalafta said this end of Masechta Uktzin, the last Mishnah is in Shas. So he said, Rabbi Shimon ben Chalafta, that Hashem didn't find a vessel for bracha, for blessing, for Yidden. The Keli Machzi bracha, El HaSholem, only peace. Shenamar, as the pasuk says, Hashem and Hashem will bless His people. Hashem grants His people strength. Hashem Yevarachas Am B'Sholem. Hashem blesses His people with peace. And he asked the obvious question: Where do we see that peace is the keli? Peace is the bracha. The pasuk says Hashem grants His people strength, and Hashem blesses His people with peace. But the Gemara is bringing this pasuk. The Mishnah is bringing this pasuk to support the contention that the vessel to receive bracha is peace. But here the bracha is the peace. You understand the question? Yeah? Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. So he answers that b'shalom can also be understood as in the peace. In the peace. That if we are b'shalom, that's where the bracha comes. He brings proofs that the word beis can mean that in psukim. It's a beautiful insight. Hashem yivarech es amei b'shalom. When Yidden are shalom, then the bracha comes into the shalom. And that's the b'shalom. It's in the peace, in our achtus, in our peace amongst each other, that's the keli for Hashem's bracha. And that's the meaning of b'shalom. In the peace that we have to create, that's the keli. You follow? And there's a whole arichas here, a beautiful elaboration. L'ilui nishmosai, and maybe be reunited with our Rebbe, take it from Yad and all his devoted Chassidim, Rabbi Isaac, Beroisham, and all Klal Yisrael. Amen.
Shkoyach. Rabbi, is that why we